When we last left the embattled world of teeny tiny toy soldiers, Games Workshop had abandoned Epic Space Marine. But from across the planet, thousands of tweezer-fingered armchair generals took to the internet and created Net Epic Armageddon. Were it not for these intrepid keyboard warriors, the gaming galaxy would be forced to use the evil Games Workshop rules, unbalanced and motivated only by profit. Stay tuned for clashes between the Ultramarines and the Word Bearers.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to another Sacred Mountain Battle Report. What I've got here today is the learning scenario number 1 from Net Epic Armageddon. I'm just going to do a quick word on how the army's organized in Net Epic Armageddon. For our first scenario, we have 2 formations. That's 1, 2 formations of Word Bearers and 1, 2 formations of Ultramarines. These are both tactical units or tactical formations. You can add or subtract things like dreadnoughts or rhinos that you'll see later in the video when I go through other more advanced learning scenarios. But for this, we're just going to use basic tactical formations versus another tactical formation with an objective in the center of the board. Each tactical formation has to stay within 5 centimeters of what I'm going to call formation coherency of another unit. This is a unit or stand in the same formation. And these act completely differently. So there's 2 formations versus 2 formations. This is a I go, you go game, and I'll be choosing from one of 6 different orders for each of the ground units, and those different orders are advance. When I can make 1 move and then shoot. Engage, may make 1 charge move and then fight an assault. Double, make 2 moves, then shoot at a -1. March, make 3 moves. Marshal, shoot with a -1 and regroup, or move and then regroup. Overwatch, formation enters Overwatch, and you can interrupt your opponent's turn when he's moving past your line of sight and make a shot. Sustain fire, you get to shoot with a +1. Hold, if you fail your initiative test, that I'll explain in a little bit, that you can just move, shoot, or regroup. The way fighting effectiveness is conveyed in this is by blast markers. You get 1 blast marker anytime you even come under fire. You don't even have to get hit by anything, but if a unit is saying they're going to shoot this unit, they get a blast marker. And then for every unit that dies, they get another blast marker. What this does, without any special rules that I'll go over later in later games, for every blast marker that this unit has, 1 unit is suppressed. So now only 1, 2, 3 stands can fire because it has 2 blast markers. At the end of each turn, the blast markers can be removed when they regroup or rally. Inside of the Net Epic Armageddon book, there are learning scenarios at the end of each section. What I'm going to go through in this video are the core learning scenarios, where we do just ground troops, then ground troops plus transports, then armored attack, and so on. Eventually, it'll include war engines like a Warlord Titan or a Gargant, and it will include air units like the Hell Talon or a Marauder Bomber. Finally, a combined arms attack where you can get all of your cool material on the board at once in a big clash. The unit sheets for each formation will be detailed in your list, and the list is also available on or in the Net Epic Armageddon rule set. All the lists are there. It's a full, all-encompassing game in 1 book. No codex creep, no nothing like that. The stats are movement, so how far each move can be, any weapons that they're armed with. Most weapons have an AP or anti-personnel value that you have to roll above, or an AT, anti-tank value that they have to roll above. In addition, there are some AA or anti-air units that can shoot air units that are coming onto the board to intercept, and I'll go over that a little later. Finally, there is a close combat factor that you have to roll above and a save value. Sometimes units will have invulnerable save or other special rules that will improve their save. And then finally, something you may not be familiar with is called a firefight value. So what happens when 2 formations clash? This is basically an entire game of 40K. We have Ultramarines charging into word bearers. And these Ultramarines and these word bearers that are in base-to-base contact, these guys use their close combat rolls. So it'll be 1, 2, 3 close combat rolls versus 1, 2, 3 close combat rolls to see who wins that battle. Then the ones that are not completely engaged or in base-to-base contact, they don't, since they aren't using their close combat, they're using their firefight value, or FF. And this is when you get in the small arms fire, like bolters versus bolters. Now with Space Marines, I believe that they are 4 plus close combat and 4 plus firefight. So you can just roll all 6 of these at once. Now the way wounds are decided in this, they're to the closest unit first. And that may be important later when you have something like a Supreme Commander or a special squad inside your infantry squads, or maybe a special vehicle inside your squad. But hey, let's get on to the game.
Well, fans, this looks like a pretty even matchup tonight. Both the Ultramarines and Word Bearers have to formations of 6 tactical units. They're starting on foot, so it's anybody's ball game. Let's join them after the deployment.
Thanks, John. The first part of each turn is the strategy phase, where each player adds their strategy rating to a dice roll, and whoever wins gets to activate the first unit. And here's the strategy roll for turn 1. Ultramarines in green. Oh, and they get it. The Ultramarines get to activate first. The first step to receive an order is to roll against your initiative. Now, Space Marines have an initiative of 1, so they only need a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 to activate. That may change later as they collect those blast markers. The first control that central objective, starting at turn 1. The Ultramarines opted not to retain initiative, which you can only do once per activation, and handed it over to the Word Bearers. The Word Bearers activated the unit in the center of the board with an advance order that allows them to move 1 15-centimeter movement and then shoot at their normal anti-personnel or anti-tank. For this, they're shooting at troops, so it's going to be anti-personnel. The Ultramarines are coming under fire, so they receive 1 blast marker, and the anti-personnel value for the missile launchers that are 44-centimeter range, these are well within range, is 5 plus. So they would normally need 5s, but the Ultramarines are in cover, so they're going to need 6s. No hits, no love. The Word Bearers are going to try to retain initiative. Normally their initiative is 1 up, so they automatically pass the initiative test, but because they're trying to retain, it's a -1, and they needed a 2 or higher, and they succeed in retaining initiative and activating with a double move and double into that building. Then they'll give it to shoot at a -1. They're going to shoot at the Ultramarines on the right, occupying the other buildings that are in cover. So now they need, instead of a 5 up for their anti-personnel, they need a 6 up because they move double. Then they'll need a 7 up, which you can roll actually in Epic Armageddon. They'll need a 6 followed by a 4, 5, or 6 to roll a 7. Because that Ultramarine formation is coming under fire, they'll receive a 2nd blast marker. Rolling those 6 dice, needing 6s, no love. The Ultramarines are going to try to retain initiative with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Of course, they succeed, and they're going to do a sustained fire. So, as a result, they'll have to place a blast marker on the Word Bearers that come under fire. They would normally need 5s and 6s, +1, -1 for sustained fire and cover, respectively, so they need 5s, 2 hits. Those hits are assigned to the 2 closest stands. Now the Word Bearers need to make a save. They need 4, 5s, or 6s here. They fail both, and both those stands are removed and 2 blast markers are placed. And with that, we'll move on to the end phase of turn 1. In the end phase, players attempt to remove these pesky blast markers by rallying broken formations or unbroken formations. The procedure is the same for both. Roll versus initiative, applying any of 2 cumulative modifiers, -1 for enemy within 30 centimeters, -2 if the formation is broken. Both the Word Bearers and the Ultras initiatives are 1 plus, and both are within 30 centimeters of an enemy, so both need 2 pluses. If the formation is unbroken and the roll is passed, you remove half the blast markers, rounding up. If the unit is broken, you just give them 1 blast marker for each unit they have remaining, and then remove half of those blast markers, rounding up. Both the Ultras and the Word Bearers were able to pass their initiative tests and were able to regroup. Note that the Ultramarines, starting in that building next to the objective, initially had 2 blast markers, removed 1, and the Word Bearers had 3, removed 2, because Half 2 is 1.5, rounding up.
Well, fans, the Ultramarines are looking strong at the end of turn 1. They not only control the central objective, but also have eaten into the word bearer formation on the left. I'm anxious to see how the word bearers are going to deal with that objective.
Thanks again, John. Here we see the Ultramarines fire base that they've established, and I think they have a good bead on those word bearers. So let's rejoin at the start of turn 2. Recall we start each turn with a strategy phase where you take their strategy rating, add a d6 to it to see who activates first. And it looks like the word bearers go first with a 9 versus Ultramarines 8. Next step is the initiative roll, and the word bearers will need to roll a 1 or higher to activate, and they barely make it with a 2. And they're going to activate an engage order here, and they're going to come out of the woods and charge into those Ultramarines. Now, remember that you can only make one move, and those guys move 15 centimeters, and they'll try to get in base to base. And those that can't will have to use their firefight value. But fortunately, they're all 4+. There's no macro weapons or power fists or anything like that hidden in there, so it'll be a straight roll-off. All right, let's start this assault. The first step of the assault procedure is to choose a target formation, and it's those Ultramarines in the building. And then they make the charge move. Recall it's only 15 centimeters because that's as far as their movement will allow. Then the opponent is able to make countercharges. Those Ultramarines could have countercharged out of the building up to 5 centimeters to improve their base-to-base close combat. And if they had macro weapons or something like that, they might have done that. But they're going to stick in cover. Then you will resolve attacks. First, we'll do it with the close combat weapons of the word bearers, and then the firefight of the word bearers that aren't in base-to-base contact, those other 3. And when you're resolving that firefight, you don't add a blast marker like you do in shooting. So that's 3 hits allocated to the Ultramarines that are closest, first in base-to-base, then to whomever's closest. Continuing with the 4th step of assault, the Ultramarines will strike back first with the 2 stands in base-to-base contact with their close combat weapons, and then the 4 that are not in base-to-base combat with their firefight value. Now, although blast markers would suppress these Ultramarines if they were shooting, it does not apply to firefight. Everybody's in it to win it when there's danger close. If you just imagine the center of this game board as a full game of 40K, you can see those word bearers occupying a building nearby. Well, unfortunately for those Ultramarines, they actually get to participate in this assault as well, and they get to call upon supporting fire from their allies in that brown building. And so now the word bearers will get to roll 4 additional firefight dice against the Ultramarines. Those get allocated to the closest Ultramarines, and again, blast markers don't affect that word bearer unit. Then everybody makes saves. Now you may have noticed me putting dice next to individual units, and that's the way hits are assigned. You have to assign all the hits equally throughout the unit, and then you wrap back around if there's a lot of hits to the unit, and you start allocating to the closest available first, and then you make the saves individually, and I'm going to spare you all those individual rolls. As it turns out, only 1 Ultramarine dies. They were all able to make their saves at 4+, and none of the word bearers died. Now we'll begin to work out the combat result.
So now we're going to work out the combat results, starting with the Ultramarines. We'll use this table here on the assault modifiers. For each kill that you have inflicted on the assault, they got 0 kills. That would have been a +1. You have more units than the opposing formation. There's 6 here versus 6. Well, it's 5 there, so they do not have that +1. You have twice as many units as the opposing. No, that would be another +1. Your formation has no blast markers, but it does have a blast marker, so they don't get that +1. The opposing formation has more blast markers. They would get another +1. Their score is 0. Now, the word bearers. For each kill you have inflicted during the assault, they get a +1. Did they have more units than the opposing force? No. You have more than twice as many units as the opposing force? No. Your formation has no blast markers? Yes, so they get another +1, and there they go to a 2. The opposing formation has more blast markers? That's yes. They get a 3. So it's 0 to 3. Now the Word Bearers have a combat modifier of 3, and the Ultramarines have a combat modifier of 0. Each of these players will roll 2d6 and add their score. Now, you choose the highest. So the Ultramarines got a score of 5, and the Word Bearers got a score of 4. 5 plus 0 is 5. 4 plus, 3 is 7. So they beat the Ultramarines by 2. And unfortunately for the Ultramarines, that kills 2 more Ultramarines, and now you get the blast markers. So they got 1 blast marker killed in the fight, and 2 more for being killed afterwards. So now they have 4 blast markers and 3 stands. That unit is now considered broken, and we're going to denote that with a little red jewel. Those blast markers get removed, and this unit is broken, and they have to make a withdrawal move. They can make 2 movements, and if they end within 15 centimeters of an enemy unit, they're destroyed. So we definitely want to get 15 centimeters away. Unfortunately, they're going to have to leave the objective behind, and they're going to move back to the Amazon delivery center here, and see if their new 3D printer has arrived yet. But they are broken. And now the winner can consolidate. And unfortunately for the Space Marine or the Ultramarine player, they can consolidate 5 centimeters, which will put them into this building and in control of the objective. And that's the first activation of the second turn.
The Word Bearers have opted not to retain initiative and going to let that pass over to the Ultramarines to see what they want to do. And the Ultramarines are going to test their initiative. All they need is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. They're going to elect to perform a double action to try to set them up for a turn 3 charge, because you start looking for victory conditions at the end of turn 3. So the Ultramarines will start making their double move into that area terrain to set themselves up for a turn 3 charge, so they can at least contest that objective and not have the game end right then. Now, you'll notice that I'm having to move them twice, and that's the reason for that is if those Word Bearers in that brown building were on Overwatch, they would get to interrupt them at the end of their first movement. Well, I'm pretty happy with that move, making the best out of bad circumstances. Now they're going to bring the Word Bearers under fire, and the Word Bearers will get a blast marker there, and the Ultramarines will get 6 shots. Recall their AP value is 5 or higher, and since they moved, that takes it to a 6, but the Word Bearers are partially at least in cover, and they're going to need 7, so they need 6s followed by 4, 5s, or 6s. Looks like the Ultramarines did get a hit and rolled a 7, and now the Word Bearers have to make a save, which they make. The Word Bearers in that beige building are going to take a sustained fire action. They already passed their initiative test, brings the Ultramarines under fire, so the Ultramarines get a blast marker. The red chip denotes that the Word Bearers have been activated. They would normally get to roll 5 dice, rolling on their anti-personnel, but they have a blast marker, so they only get to roll 3 because 1 is suppressed. And 1 hit, needing 5s because they had a +1, then the -1 because of cover. And the Ultramarines fail to save that and lose a stand and gain another blast marker. Now we're in the end phase of turn 2.
Now, in the end phase, what has to happen is we need to regroup the unbroken formations. and you do that alternating. I'll start with the word bearers here. They have to make one roll above their initiative, but there's a -1 if there's an enemy within 30 centimeters, which there are, so they need to roll a 2 or higher. If they were broken, there would be an additional -2, so it would be a -3. So that will come into play later when the Ultramarines attempt to rally. But right now they have to roll a not 1. So they rolled a 5, they succeeded. They only have 1, so this blast marker will be removed. Now we'll move to this Ultramarine squad formation right there. They are unbroken. But there is an enemy within 30 centimeters, so they have a -1. Their initiative is normally 1, goes to 2, so not a 1. They roll a 6, great.
Pay no attention to this roll. You should remove half the blast markers. This unit has 2 blast markers. I should have only removed 1 blast marker there.
Other word bearers formation, they're going to try to pass their initiative because there's a formation within 30 centimeters, enemy formation within 30 centimeters. They needed a 2, they rolled a 6, removing the single blast marker. Now, for the formation in the back, the Ultramarines, way back there in the back, they're broken, and there is a enemy unit within 30 centimeters. There's 15, 30. So they have a -3. Their initiative is normally 1, but now they have a -3 to the roll, so they need a 4 or higher to pass this test. That's going to be kind of rough. They passed. That's good. They passed their rally test, so all the regroup tests pass, and then finally the rally tests pass, and they have 3. They're considered to have 3 blast markers on them, so the broken token is removed. They would normally have 3 blast markers, and they would remove half of them, so they have only 1 blast marker, and they can act normally for turn 3, the last turn.
Well, fans of word bearers are in a good position to win this at the end of turn 3. What they need to do is win the strategy roll so they can activate first and charge into the Ultramarines with an engage action. This will keep the Ultramarines away from the objective and prevent them from contesting at the end of turn 3, but they will have to retain the initiative to bring support up to recapture it with their smaller formation.
Expert analysis, as always, Dreadnought John. So let's join the Ultramarines and the word bearers in the strategy phase of what could be the final turn of the game, turn 3. Oh, and it looks like the Ultramarines get the upper hand. They'll be able to activate first. Let's see what they do.
With that fail, the Ultramarines really have a chance here. If they charge with their near formation, they can make this game go into a 4th turn.
I agree, John, but it looks like the Ultramarines are going to try to activate that rear formation. And they fail! Oh my gosh, they've got to initiate a hold movement. This is terrible. This is disaster for the Ultramarines. What are they going to do? They can only move or shoot or rally that back formation. What are they going to do next? They can't even hold the initiative. Oh, this looks like a word bearer's victory for sure, John.
Folks, this was a terrible play call. This is really an experience showing through. You got to have a good coaching staff, or mistakes like this are bound to happen.
And so initiative will pass to the word bearers. And as predicted, the word bearers on that central objective are going to take an engage action and tie up those Ultramarines. I think they even have an advantage. I think they outnumber them. So this is going to be a bloody mess for the Ultramarines.
Okay, so what we're going to do, we have 2 word bearers in base to base and 2 engaging in a firefight. So that's 4 close combat rolls and 2 firefight rolls. I'm going to combine those because they're all 4-ups. Oh dear. That's 5 hits. And the first hit will go to the ones engaged in close combat, and then we'll continue back to the guys in back. But here, the Ultramarines will get to fight back with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. 2 of which are in close combat, and then 3 of which are just firefight. They did not do as good. 3 hits to the word bearers. But they have 3 other units that they can call on. Recall the blast marker does not suppress anyone, so they get to shoot at their full firefight value, which will be 4 up and be able to roll 3 dice instead of 2 dice that they would be in shooting due to the suppression. So 4 ups for firefight, 2 more hits coming into the word bearers, and they go to the closest. These guys over here. Okay, only one of these word bearers units is within 15 centimeters, and really, in fact, they don't really have line of sight because of all those trucks in the way. So I'm not going to let them fight. So what we're going to do is we're going to make saving throws. First, for the word bearers, we're going to go from left to right. So the word bearers lost 3. Now let's see how the Ultramarines do. We're going to go from left to right again. All right, so we're going to work out the assault results next. We'll start with the word bearers. The word bearers killed each kill that they inflicted. So they inflicted 4 kills. So they're at a 4. And they have more units. Did they? 3, 6 versus 5. Yes, they had more units. So that goes to a 5. They didn't have more than twice as many. They have no blast markers, so that goes to a 6. I can do it 6. And the opposing unit has more blast markers. It does not. So their roll or their bonus will be a 6. Now the Ultramarines, they killed 3. They do not have more units. They do not have more than twice as many units. It has no blast markers, so that goes to a 4. The opposing unit has more blast markers. No. So it's 4 to 6. Again, we roll 2d6, taking the highest. Red is the word bearers. They get a bonus of 6. Green is the Ultramarines. They get a bonus of 4. The 2 highest, oh, that's pretty good. So the 2 highest, the Ultramarines get a 6 with a bonus of 4. That brings their total to a 10. The word bearers roll a 4 with a bonus of 6. That brings their total to 10. It's a tied combat. We have to go again. So now we remove these casualties from the fight and we add the blast markers. The word bearers killed 4 different Ultramarine stands. So the Ultramarines have 4 blast markers associated with them. The Ultramarines killed 3 word bearers, and so the word bearers, their unit has 3 blast markers. And now we'll fight again. So we have 2 in base-to-base contact and 1 in firefight. So needing 4 ups, 2 hits to the Ultramarines. And these guys can't see. Now the Ultramarines are going to fight back. They have 1 in base-to-base plus 0 in firefight. So the 1, got a hit. And then the 3 for the firefight right here. Firing with plunging fire. Only 1 extra. 2 to 2. This is coming down to the wire. Now the Ultramarines, they have 2 saves on a single unit. So they need to make this. Failed 1, passed 1, doesn't matter. This unit is dead. Blast markers removed. And then the 2 on the word bearers, needing 4s, passes 1, loses 1. So they will lose. Well, they have to lose 1 that's in base-to-base contact, so they'll lose that guy. And they gain an additional blast marker. And that's them activated. So now the word bearers unit is broken. They have 4 blast markers on them, so they have to make a withdrawal move. Blast markers are removed. I'll mark them with a broken token, and they have to make a 15 centimeter withdrawal move, 2 15 centimeter withdrawal moves. So they are way back here and broken. but not forgotten. All right, last move of the game, I think, will be this word bearers unit going to try to advance to make it to the objective. They just need a 15 centimeter move, and they'll be within range. So even if they fail this, which they can't, they could have if they had a blast marker, but they're going to go ahead and do a double movement and bring these guys under fire for a second blast marker. There it is. They're going to need 7s because they did a double, just to be sure they could make it. So they would normally need 5s up for anti-personnel 5 for their missile launchers, going to a 6 because of the double, going to a 7 because the target unit is in cover, and all fail. So now we'll move on to the end phase. Everybody has activated, and so we'll start with the Ultramarines to see if they can rally. First, they need to pass their initiative test. They have -1 because there's a unit within 30 centimeters. They pass.
When rallying in the end phase, again, you remove half the blast markers if you pass your initiative test. Ignore that 2d6 roll. You only roll those 2d6s when you're regrouping with the martial order.
So regroup. Now we're going to try to rally. This group does not have an enemy within 30, but they are broken. Their initiative value is 1, and they have a -2 because they're broken. So they need to make an initiative roll of a 3 or higher, which they do, and they'll get 2 blast markers, and they'll get to remove half. So now they've rallied with 1 blast marker. Then at the end of turn 3, we begin to check for victory conditions, which have been fulfilled.
Net Epic Armageddon is based on 4th edition Epic Space Marine. In a departure from normal philosophy of game design, GW used an open trial by playtesters and took in feedback based on actual playtesting. This resulted in one of the most elegant rule sets ever to come out of Nottingham. Now, long out of print, it is supported on websites linked below. In this game, you can seamlessly incorporate air, ground, and space operations. There are even rules for war machines ranging from Imperial Knights to the Imperator Titan. The rules are simple and straightforward and easy to complete in an afternoon. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I hope even more that you check out the game.